done it. He smashes it down the ground and it goes all the way. Farhaan Behardien has got to the fastest ever T20 50 in South Africa, and it's
Now that will be a Canada dry maximum.
I'm joined by somebody I know from many moons ago, probably talking 15 plus years ago, maybe more than that. I'm joined by South African all-round cricketer and ex-captain as well, Farhaan Behardien. Fudgie, how you doing, bro?
Hey, buddy. I'm good. Thanks. Under the circumstances, all good. Just chilling in Pretoria. Kind of getting through the days, and very fortunate, to have my health. So, all good so far.
No, good. I'm glad to hear it. So, are you living in Pretoria these days? Is that where you're based now?
Yeah, I've been grew up in Cape Town. Still living in Pretoria for the last 14 years.
Okay.
Supposedly, I'm supposed to be in Newcastle, not too far away from you.
Okay.
I signed a contract with Durham for 2 years, and
yeah.
but that's been put on hold, obviously, because of the virus and stuff that's happened around the world. But I'm currently in Pretoria now. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to take you all the way back to the early days of life. So hopefully you've got a good memory, Fudgie.
I hope so.
Born 9th of October 1983.
Correct.
Born in Johannesburg.
Yes, born in Johannesburg, grew up in Cape Town, now living in Pretoria.
Okay.
And a future resident of the northeast of the UK.
Yeah, no, look, listen, you're not going to be too far away. Hopefully I can catch up with you on this side when you're over here. So tell me about, what age were you when you left Joburg to go to Cape Town?
I was only 5. I mean, my dad moved to Johannesburg for work, and I got born in Joburg when I was 5, left back down to Cape Town. Grew up there, went to school, went to high school, went to uni, and then I left 14 years ago to come up to Pretoria to pursue a career.
Okay. So tell me about your childhood in Cape Town. I mean, what was that like? I mean, Cape Town is my favourite city on earth. I loved Cape Town. It was if I could go anywhere, I would go to visit Cape Town. What was it like for you growing up there?
Yeah, look, I think it was a brilliant place for me to grow up. My family is very community orientated. My dad's family is massive with his brothers and sisters. He has 9 brothers and sisters, or had 9 brothers and sisters. So I had a lot of first cousins. So growing up, we spent a lot of time together. Spent a lot of time in the community, and playing in the streets and playing at home. And sport was a big part of me growing up. My dad played. My mom didn't play too much. My dad played a bit of baseball. He played rugby. So whenever South Africa played on TV, we used to watch. But yeah, look, the Cape Town traditions and the culture, the Cape Malay culture was it's my background, So and I thoroughly enjoyed it growing up. Like I said, very community driven, but then also very sports driven. We play a lot of sports. My brother was old enough. He's a bit younger than me. When he was old enough, we played all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that was the first part of my journey in Cape Town. And going to high school, I got exposed more to playing cricket and playing rugby at the competitive levels against other schools, other boys' schools, namely Bishops, Rondebosch, Wynberg, Sachs, the more traditional boys' schools. And and that was the first time I got exposed to some professional cricket,
Mm-hmm.
Well, not professional, but like some good level competitive cricket, should I say.
Okay. So I had on just a couple of days back, did a recording with the great Omar Henry, who paved the way, Fudgie, for many to follow when it comes to people from a coloured background. I mean, how much of a memory do you have of him growing up? I imagine your father, your uncles, aunties, they would have all known of Omar Henry.
They all know of Omar Henry. Yes, my family actually is a big rugby family.
Okay.
Yeah, so he paved the way in 92, and throughout his whole career, and unfortunately, South Africa had a tough time being excluded from international sport. Due to the apartheid era, and that was tough for everybody in South Africa. He paved the way. I don't have too many memories. I used to play, when I was growing up, I played loads of sports, but soccer being a big sport that I used to play. And that was a main sport for me. I played cricket in the summer, but like soccer was like, I really enjoyed it. I was part of a club team. Every Saturdays in the winters, we used to go out and play. And, I have actually dealt with Omar Henry over the years, and that's obviously me becoming a professional cricketer.
Yeah,
I've had to deal with him in the Paarl region, because that's where he's from. So I never really got to experience what he had to experience, or got to see, him paving the way for me. But yeah, look, he's a trailblazer in the community, and he definitely started started the path for us.
Yeah. I mean, just while we're on that subject, how did you find your upbringing? I mean, did you find that things were controversial growing up as a kid? Did you see, or by the time that you were coming through, was it a little bit more straightforward?
Yeah, look, I was very fortunate. My parents did a great job. My dad was kicked out of his house in District 6 back in the day, in apartheid years. Fortunately, my parents sheltered me from apartheid and segregation and racism, especially. And I grew up a carefree young kid who just wanted to play soccer, kick a rugby ball, hit a cricket ball, have a tennis racket in his hand. And I suppose I really thank them for that, and they exposed me to all of the wonders that sport can do, and I just literally thank them for not exposing me to that particular aspect, and yeah, that's hopefully one day I can teach my kids going forward exactly the same thing.
Yeah, no, I hope so.
Yeah.
Now I want to touch on how I know you. Probably, I think I came over to South Africa to join up with the Western Province Academy. I came over with now current Scotland captain Kyle Coetzer.
Was that in 2002?
2002, that's right. So
yes, that's 18 years ago. That's half of my life ago.
No, it's actually, when you think about it, it's scary, man. Where have the years gone? But I got to meet you, and everything you've just described there of your childhood and the kind of your love of sports and stuff like that is pretty much my memory of the period of time that I got to know you and play a bit of cricket with you. You were always a very energetic guy. You always turned up buzzing, really happy to be there. You could tell you just loved to be around the cricket. You were so net friendly with everybody. You were very much a team man. We had some great guys in our team, to name a few. Mario Olivier, bit of a crazy character, but a lovable lad, just to steam in and bowl as fast as possible. Ahmed Majid, who I'm still keep in touch with on Facebook. He was actually our captain of the academy that year.
Yes, he was.
We had Barney Mohammed as our coach, and there was a proper talented side. But I think the best memory I had at that point was we used to get to bowl in the Newlands nets at Graham Smith, Herschel Gibbs, Ashwell Prince,
Shark Callis,
up and coming JP Duminy. Tell me about your memories of that time.
Yeah, I was a young kid. I had maybe a bit of a disillusioned view of what it would take to become an international player. I thought I'd play 1 year in the academy, next year in the B side, the following year in the A side, and then the next year I'd play for South Africa. So I had a very, some would say very wishful or very goal-orientated, but still disillusioned, because the journey, took me quite a long time to actually achieve all my goals. But it was awesome, I was able to put that dip in. And for many people don't know, when I was growing up, I used to be an opening bowler / first change bowler. People see me as a batsman now, more of a batting all-rounder. and back then I used to go bowling whenever they played ODIs or whenever the national team played test matches, and they needed net bowlers to bowl, and I used to be the guy that was bowling. So those are very fond memories that I have of just seeing my heroes in action, particularly Jacques Callis. He was my idol growing up, and to see him in the flesh and to see him up close and personal and such big characters of the game. And even then, I don't think they would have known that they would have reached such heights as they did, especially Jacques Callis. But so yeah, very fond memories. I used to work my arse off because I used to bowl quite a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, very fond memories. And you got to bowl at Newlands, and we used to get tickets to go watch games. And yeah, it was all cool because I loved the sport and I loved just being a part of it all. And I wanted to. I aspired to get there, and but I never knew exactly how it was all going to unfold.
Yeah.
But it was quite close. It was quite cool because I could actually almost touch it. But yeah, I was still quite a way away.
That's interesting though to hear, man, that you had clear goals. That's something that I think a lot of youngsters maybe lack when they're coming through. You need to have sight of where you're going. I certainly, probably similar to yourself, believed at that point that everything was going to go hunky-dory and life was going to be easy. But there's blocks that come in front of you, and it's a matter of dealing with them. And you've obviously, looking at going through your career, but there's been lots of little bumps along the way in your career, and you've always you just strike me as kind of you've got a strong mentality probably to get through a lot of the tough stages. Do you think your mental side is something that you've developed as you've gone along?
100%, and touching on to the fact that where I grew up. So I grew up in a pretty safe environment, pretty safe community. However, there were elements around the community that I grew up in. Suburb called Manenberg, Hanover Park, Heideveld. Those are the neighbouring suburbs to where I grew up, which was notorious in Cape Town as being very dangerous and havens for drugs and violence and gangsterism. So that's why I always thank my parents for shielding me from all of those influences coming into my personal life and any of the close friends that I had at the time's life. So, and that's why I mentioned I never got exposed to that. So growing up, my parents, they were not wealthy and they made ends meet, but it was a tough gig. We never had everything that my friends had and other kids had. And one thing I did have is my sport to kind of express myself. And I was had some sort of ability and some sort of talent. It kind of set me apart. And going through all of that, growing up in the neighborhood where I did feel safe, but also knowing that there were challenges. My parents weren't wealthy, but they provided the roof over my head, food in my belly, clothes on my back. So that was sorted, so I never felt without. And all of those challenges, going to a different school. So I went to an old Model C school from my community and got exposed to different cultures and having to make it in cricket. And I played rugby at school, a love of mine, a very close second to my current love, which is cricket. And
it's funny you say that. I actually watched a segment when you boys were away on tour recently, not so long ago. I think South Africa were playing in the final or the semi, and I think it was you and AB de Villiers in particular, and you looked possessed watching the game, man. I can't remember what it was. I was watching, it was some sort of documentary, but you were like, when they won, you were off. You were.
Yeah, no, I think we were overseas. I think we were watching the semi-finals, Africa versus Wales, and I think it was in the last 10 minutes we beat Wales with the try, and I think we just lost our minds because I think a lot of the guys are quite close to some of the rugby players, the national rugby players.
Yeah.
And just generally, personally, to me, it means a lot. My dad played rugby, my family, my cousins played rugby, I played rugby.
Yeah.
Growing up through high school, and we won the World Cup, and so in '95, and I was so passionate about it. And anyway, I'm still passionate today about it, but that's an entirely different show. But yeah, so when you ask about the mental side, growing up where I grew up, not having too much with regards to resources, but having enough, and I think that made me willing to work hard and to attain my goals and, you know, set myself apart on the cricket field from the rest.
Yeah, no, excellent, excellent. So 2004, Fudgie, debut for Western Province.
Yes.
So, I mean, you said you wanted to make the B the next year, then the year after. I mean, you were closer, you were reasonably close to going along with your roadmap. But how was that for you? Obviously, proud moment, big, you know,
Yeah.
Western Province, such a prestige regional side.
Yeah, I grew up watching cricket at Newlands on a Friday night or a Sunday afternoon, and day night games with Gary Curson used to play, and Graham Smith, Herschel Gibbs, Adrian Kuiper. It used to be a very awesome event to go to when I was a young kid.
Yeah.
Under lights, and to represent Western Province was awesome. And I thought, okay, cool, this is my shot. And I stagnated for a couple of years, for a couple of seasons, so 2 seasons, 2004 and then the 2005 season. Mm-hmm. And I don't know exactly what it was. I don't think I had a particular role model that was close to me that could show me the ropes, that could explain to me what work it needed to happen from my side to train my mind, to train my discipline with regards to batting, with regards to bowling, with regards to my physical aspect. And for about 2 seasons, it stagnated for me, which wasn't ideal. But I suppose you need to go through that lulls in your performances.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. One thing that was tipped of you, now this is a memory I have of you. I remember when we used to have fielding practice, and you were a bit of a freak, and you seemed to really. I mean, I'm going to be honest here and just put this out there. I hated fielding. Like I used to get so bored fielding. If I wasn't batting or doing a bit of left arm bowling, I did get frustrated. But the people that I watched that were the best at fielding loved fielding practice, and you were one of them. And they reckon in your young days you were tipped potentially to be like the next Jonty Rhodes. Was he a role model to you when you were coming? Was he somebody you looked up to?
92 World Cup is when I first saw him run out in Zimmermann.
The dive through the stumps.
Yes, one of the most iconic photographs in world history. Or just at the time, it was one of the most special things. We came out of isolation from apartheid, and then we went to the World Cup, and he ran Inzamam out when I was about 9 years old, and I thought that was amazing.
Yeah,
I would love to do that. Fast forward 10 years, I'm in the academy, and I had an opportunity. Technically, I was 2 steps away, Western Province A side, and then the national side. So if you think about it, that I wasn't too far off. But he was a hero of mine. I was very athletic. I was very gifted with regards to being fast. I have fast twitch fibers, and I can run fast, and my handball and eye cords were pretty good, and I just wanted to be good in everything, really. So I suppose I don't know if I was going to be the next Jonty. I don't think anybody.
Did you ever get the chance to work with him?
I've met him a few times, yes, and it was quite surreal to meet him. But then again, you kind of formulate your own kind of ideas of how to go about the game. By the time I met him, I was probably playing for about 10 years, or 10 years at the time. So, but he was a legend, and I enjoyed and chatted about the game. And he was on a very different path, running these camps in India, and it would have been awesome if he spent a bit more time in South Africa. But that's his own decision. Trying to impart knowledge to a different part of the world. So, but I did meet him as a legend of the game, a legend of mine, and that kind of got me into wanting to play for my country, was seeing that run out of Inzamam.
Yeah, no, amazing.
Yeah.
So looking at I looked at your career, and for me, Fudgie, 2009 was a big season for you. That seemed to really, looking at your stats in that year, you averaged 45 in domestic limited overs cricket. You averaged 66 in T20, which is incredible, man. That's like, I mean, if you average 25 or 30 in T20, I think you're doing pretty well. And also in 2009, you had a very memorable moment where you hit a six off the last ball to win a game for South Africa against Hong Kong in the Hong Kong Sixes. So just in general, just talk to me about that season. What clicked? Was that just years of, you know, finding your feet and then just knowing your game really well?
So what's that? 2006, 7, 8, 9, 9, 10. It's about, I suppose, the first 2 years. I got my contract in 2006. So I played 2 years amateur cricket. Went on a bit of a break for a year because I had an ACL injury. So when going to touch on it slightly, when you asked about my mental game, after 2 years, from 2004 to 2006, those 2 seasons where I speak about stagnating, I played rugby in the winter before the summer of 2006, and I tore my ACL, anterior cruciate ligament injury. I had to have an operation, and it took me about 7.5 months of aggressive rehab to kind of get back to playing, and I thought I was never going to run again, let alone play cricket again. And speaking about the mental game, I had to overcome quite a serious injury to get myself even back to playing any type of sport or run, let alone professional sport. Anyway, so I signed my contract up at the Titans. First 2 years is very up and down, few performances here, few failures there. And then I think the reason was I signed another 2-year contract after my first 2-year contract. It kind of gave me the confidence. It gave me the confidence to know that, look, the team believes in me by, first of all, giving me another 2-year contract. And I think I was in the middle of it, and there was a bit of security. I'd worked on my game in 2008. I stayed behind. So in 2007, I went over to the UK and I played in 2004 in Gisborough, up in the northeast. And then in 2008, I stayed behind and I worked on my game fully. So when 2009 came around, I'd had a full winter in South Africa of working on my game, ironing out any kinks at that time. And I think that gave me kind of good understanding of my game, and that met with an opportunity to play. I was fortunate enough to play quite a lot of cricket at the time for the first team, and to develop my game at the first team level was a key. And I went through a purple patch, and the rest is history in that season, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, just from I didn't mean to skip some of the years there, but from looking at your career, I think it really launched was 2009. I think that really leapfrogged you, because from there you obviously would have got the attention of, you know, the national selectors would have started, you know, having a look at you at that point and thinking, right,
definitely,
you know, there's something here. And obviously 2012, that we were rewarded as well by going to the World Cup in Sri Lanka, the T20 World Cup. How proud a moment was that for you?
Yeah, that season was, in my opinion, my breakout season with regards to, so on the domestic circuit was 2009, but the 2012, the consistency of performances in a particular T20 tournament was out of this world. And that led me to be selected in the national side, made my debut. And in 2012, later on in September, I went to Sri Lanka in a World Cup, and that was a pretty special moment. So the consistency of performances was...
Sorry, just to interrupt you as well, you also got the SA T20 Player of the Year that year as well.
I think that's what led me to the whole story. Like, I had a great tournament, got Player of the Year, made my debut literally 2 days after the final. We played the final on the Friday night, and on the Sunday we were playing against India in making my debut. Yeah. And it was an amazing story. And then I was in the national team. I was like, oh no, this is... And then what was funny was, in my debut game, Jacques Callis was batting in, it was in a benefit game for him against India. Right. And I was batting at 4. And I never batted 4, but Gary Curse and my head coach said, you bat in 4.
Yeah.
And he opened the batting and he scored 60. He came off, and we were crossing the field representing our country. And 10 years prior to that, I was bowling to him in the nets. So that was quite a special moment, like, you know. So yeah. Anyway, that was just a
Who
kind of a.
Who were some of the other guys in the changing room that you went into when you first went in at that point?
Dane Villas, actually. Johan Botha, Wayne Parnell, Colin Ingram, Faf du Plessis, Jacques Callis. Yeah, those were Robin Peterson at the time.
AB?
Those were Imi. I'm sure he was there. But that was 2012. I think Imi was there.
No, I was saying AB.
Yeah,
Sorry, I said AB.
Oh,
AB.
so just AB or Imi?
Oh, sorry.
I think AB. I mean, AB. Yeah, AB was definitely there. Yeah. So that the 2012 was actually the year that like kind of really kickstarted like the journey. So at that time, it would have been 6 years playing franchise cricket.
Yeah.
2012 got Player of the Year, T20, made my South African debut, and then yeah, that was a pretty special time.
How were you welcomed as a newbie? Obviously, as a youngster coming in, did you settle quite well in the changing room? Did you feel comfortable in yourself, like being around obviously such big superstars? Were you quite comfortable quite quickly in that changing room?
Yeah, I think I was comfortable in the changing room. AB was there. He's played for the Titans when we had quite a strong Titans contingent in the national team. Morne Morkel, Dale Steyn, Albie Morkel, Faf du Plessis, AB de Villiers. So those were like the guys that I've played with in the national team. And Hashim Amla, I know him well, and he was there in the setup. And the coaching staff at the time, Gary Kirsten, you know, I really got on well with the coaching staff, and I really liked the ideas that he had. And and the team that I played for leading up to my debut, the Titans, was a very successful team.
Yeah.
So all of those factors contributed. When I've got into the team, I felt comfortable. You know, my skill level was at a particular level, which wasn't great. Yes, I was really good at the time. Looking back, you know, the players I played against internationally, they were of great quality, you know, and I wish I had a little bit touch more guidance with regarding just the nuances of the game at the time. But that's part and parcel. You got to learn. You got to knock your head.
Yeah.
You know, I played against some great players, you know, especially in that beginning. But so yeah, that was just a little bit of a story. I wish I had a little bit touch more like. Maybe I needed to work a touch harder, just add a little bit more luck in the beginning. But I mean, it all happens for a reason. So
yeah. No, looking at you, we're going to talk about some more moments in your career. But it was when I was looking at it and really studying it, very stop-start. You know, there was always this. I mean, look at the number that I just spoke about there in 2009, 2012. The fact that you were named Player of the Year and such a strong cricketing playing nation shows what you were capable of. And you had moments. There's one other thing, you know, I noticed as well. You always seem to bat a little bit down the order, like, you know, and you love a red inker. But I can, that's because I think you probably had to come in and bat with the tail a lot. Like you never really seem to get that kind of number 5, you know, 6 lows, but if you got it consistently. But I think probably if you'd been able to get number 5 and cement your split, it might have given you the chance to score bigger runs.
Yeah, the only thing, there was a couple of guys ahead of me in that particular queue. Sometimes it was JP Bimini, nearly 200 ODIs, and there's another guy called AB de Villiers who was kind of ahead of me in the queue.
Fair enough, yeah.
So I think I had to bat 6 on occasion. I'm a genuine 5. 5 has been my best position. If you'd ask me what's your best position in all formats, I would say 5. 5 is where I think I can change the game. And in that, when I started, and especially ODI cricket, Africa had of the best players. Hashim Amla in his pomp, AB de Villiers in his pomp.
Yeah.
We had like 3.
JP Duminy as well, who was
in his pomp. Yeah, like I'm saying, like yeah, like in his pomp, and then a young Quinton de Kock, like rising from the ranks, and like Quinton, Hashim, Fafu started off averagely, and now he's one of the top 10 ODI batters in the world. You would admit it as well. He played like 50 ODIs, and then he averaged only like 30. Before changing around his game massively, but he was at 3, AB was at 4, JP was at 5, and then I slotted in at 6. And then I always used to fight with Riley Rousseau, David Miller, Colin Ingram, to name a few. I mean, Justin Armstrong.
Top class players as well, man. Like, serious.
So I suppose I put pressure on myself to kind of perform whenever I did. So firstly, it was the pressure to perform. Secondly, which is a thing across the world sport. Secondly, it was the opportunity that you got was limited. Like, I remember it used to interchange between myself and Dave Miller. So he would play the whole series against Sri Lanka. I would play I would go on tour to West Indies. He wouldn't even get selected. Then we'd split the series against England, like 50-50. We always used to fight so hard to get a game. It kind of depended on a bit of form and stuff. So that's why it was a bit stop-start, and the role itself is so hard batting at 6. So the limit, and the fact that I had little time when the guys were on form, I'd only get 10 balls max, 15 balls max in the one-day innings. Give my wicket away. Stats doesn't look great, but I was proud to do it. I was proud to give the wicket away for my country. But just those guys were such beasts. Hashim scoring big hundreds, AB batting the way he bats, contributing heavily. A young Quinton de Kock, JP Duminy in his pomp. And that's why it's a bit stop-start. Like, no real consistent run of performances for a long time. For periods in time, definitely, but not for years and years on end.
I mean, that's a tough, when you actually break it down there, Fudgie. I mean, it's easy for me to say from here, like, oh, you never really cemented the number 6 spot, but when you started naming even 3 or 4 names that were fighting for the 1 or 2 spots there, behind the 3 or 4 guys that were probably banging, like you say, knocking hundreds every other game.
Exactly.
It's a bloody tough gig. It's, I mean, I didn't quite have those legends around me when I was coming through in the Scottish team, so maybe I just called that one a little bit wrong. So
that's been stuff. Even speaking about it to you now, like, it just puts it into perspective. It's like, actually, I did okay. You know what I mean? Like, I did okay. I got to play with all.
Listen, bro, you played for your country. You played for South Africa consistently. Consistently or not, you played for over a good number of years.
6 to be in fact.
7 years. Listen, that's something to be very, very, very proud of. I mean, thanks, your country is just, the team is just blessed with talent. I mean, and I think if you were coming through now, Fudgie, you probably would have played a lot more cricket, because you're not quite as strong currently as what you were when you were coming through, because the guys coming through when you were coming through, that was a serious lineup in all formats of cricket. 2012, how was your experience in Sri Lanka of going over for the World Cup?
Brilliant. Just before the first game, I was never in the starting lineup. We played a warm-up game against New Zealand. Justin Armstrong was the incumbent at the time. He got a first ball duck. I got 22 not out of 11 balls, closing off the T20 warm-up game against New Zealand. I remember I hit Doug Bracewell over extra cover for a 6.
Nice.
I played every game at the T20 World Cup.
Nice.
It was a very surreal thing. The perception changed within like a few balls for me, like within 20 minutes of the incumbent to the guy on the fringe. It was an awesome. I remember Pat Cummins hitting me on my shoulder in one of the games with a bouncer. I was young. I was 28 years old. I was very well versed in South African conditions. Going to Sri Lanka, playing against the best. Pakistan had Muhammad Hafiz, Ajmal. They had Afridi, and then that's not even to mention Umar Gul and but Australia had a great side: Shane Watson, Pat Cummins, Nathan. I think Nathan Bracken played. I'm not too certain, but anyway, the experience was fantastic. We didn't do too well, as we haven't in any ICC event. But yeah, the fantastic experience. So hot, the crowds, the vibe. Yeah, just being a part of a World Cup after seeing it in '92 when Jonty Rhodes. I mean, me being in a World Cup. Yes, not the 50th of a World Cup, but being in a World Cup was something special.
Yeah, I got to go to the 2007 World Cup in your country, South Africa. Yeah. Only played one of the warm-up games against Zimbabwe, but again, just being there, like I was like a fan. I was like coming. I attacked Herschel Gibbs pretty much in the hotel. I was coming out of the hotel and I clocked him going in. I just ran up to him, sat down with him in the lobby, and he must have thought. And I'm like, yeah, I play for Scotland, and he's like, all right, I thought you were just a random or two. But I mean, it's just amazing. I can see that was your first experience in your career as well, of being part of a world competition. It must have been special. 2014, you scored a knock that stands out for me. Now, I always judge cricketers of what happens when they go to Australia. That is like really important to me. I've grown up watching Test cricket, staying up all night, watching the cricket in Australia, and just anybody that goes to Australia and scores runs, automatically, I just think, I respect that. And you scored in 2014 at Sydney, SCG. I believe it was 63 or 64, but it was a 50 anyway. Looking up on it, that must have been a big moment for you as well, to do it against Australia in Australia.
It got me to the World Cup the next year. So I keep speaking about this World Cup in '92 when Jonty Rhodes did this amazing thing, and I was 9 years old. They were in Australia, and I thought I want to do that one day. 23 years later, or firstly 22 years later, I was at the SCG playing against Australia, and I played every game in that series.
Yeah.
And I was threatening to do really well. I got like 25 of 25 at the Wacker. Nathan Coulter-Nile was playing, Mitchell Johnson. Great Australian team. Michael Clark was playing. I mean, the who's who was playing. And the final game of that competition, I got 64 for about 48 balls, and it was like the best Australian lineup. Mitchell Stark was playing, Cummins was playing, Hazelwood was playing. I mean, they had an absolute bomb. Yeah, it was like a bomb bowling lineup, and I did really well. And one of my favorite innings ever, and one of my favorite venues. And yeah, I still have it on playback at home. Every now and again, I just remind myself, look, once upon a time, I dominated one of the best bowling attacks in the world. So
yeah, no, like when you look at your career, that's one innings that for me really stood out. And when you name that attack, so what do you think? Do you think were you just seeing it big that day? Did it just?
James Faulkner also played. So James Faulkner, Mitchell Stark, Pat Cummins, and Josh Hazelwood played that day. That was the attack.
Proper attack.
I mean that. And then
Faulkner really good at those slower balls and Yorkers.
At the time, he was like this guy batting at 7-8 who could bowl 130, but he had backhand slow balls. He had good variation, and he was a left-hander who could hit it at the back end. Anyway, I got those runs, and then came back, played against West Indies, and then got selected for the World Cup. So the 50th of a World Cup, which was the biggest dream of mine. So. To come back 23 years later to play in a World Cup where I idolized my heroes doing it 23 years prior, that was probably one of the most special moments. Yeah.
Listen, I could talk to you about the whole thing, but I'm going to highlight a couple of moments that were relevant to me as a fan as well watching. So first of all, you made a good 50 against the UAE.
That is my one of my second favorite moments in my career. Well, it's in my top 5 because go on. Sorry, I'm telling.
No. I want to hear about it. Tell me about that innings.
We played at the Cape Town. So one of my Cape Town in Wellington in New Zealand against the UAE, and we were struggling. We got out for 99, which was weird. But we were only in about 260 or 70 after about 47 overs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if UAE straight is very long, square is very short at the Cape Town, obviously drop in pitches.
Mm-hmm.
We get to under 300. there could be a chance if somebody gets off to a fast start, it's very possible with, like Asian cricketers to get off to a fast start, get 50 or 30 balls, get 90 off the first 10 overs, put us under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I did really well. I got 62 not out of 31 balls, and we got to 340, and the game was done.
That killed the game then. So your innings.
Yeah, exactly. So in those 3 overs, we got like 60 runs or something crazy.
Yeah.
And I was smashing it to all parts, and that was a moment. That was special to me because I contributed to a World Cup winning performance.
A World Cup that you'd been dreaming of since '92. So
since '92,
you got to pinch yourself in those moments, man. You got to really remember when you kind of come towards, you've played a lot of your career, and you look at those little moments, and that obviously, I'm glad I mentioned that knock in Australia now, because that got you a World Cup in 2015.
Yes.
But unfortunately, I come from a Pakistani background as well, Fudgie.
Go on.
And, South Africa, oh man, if Pakistan don't do well, I always support South Africa. But it's also such a frustrating team to support in the World Cup because, as you know, it starts back from '92. Brian McMillan and Dave Richardson left hanging dry. When they were going to win that game against England, they would have won. And probably went on to beat Pakistan in the final. There's a good chance. Then you've got the Sean Pollock moment where he didn't quite calculate correctly, and
in 2003, even Mark Boucher, 99 was the drop catch of it.
99, 99. Donald doesn't run. What a moment that'll be! But that day in particular in the 2015 World Cup was another moment. De Villiers had the game won against Pakistan. And I remember I was actually in Pakistan visiting family. It was a family wedding. And I was sitting watching the game with a couple of friends, and we were just, that kind of, it's like when you put the fielding team's energy down, you're not, and we were like, this game is done. De Villiers. And I'll never forget, Wabriaz dropped one in short. De Villiers helped it round the corner and picked out fine leg. And the rest was history. That was South Africa out of the World Cup. How did that? That was I think it was at quarterfinals.
No.
Last 16.
No, are you talking about 2015?
Yeah.
No, that wasn't it. We lost the game against Pakistan, but it wasn't It wasn't nothing. The quarterfinal we played against Sri Lanka. The semi-final we played against New Zealand. Grant Elliott, they needed 5 of 2.
Do you know what it was? We needed to win the game to get through. Pakistan needed to win to get through. So that was,
no worries. And then you got to the quarterfinal, Australia beat you. Then they beat India in the semi. We played New Zealand in the semi. We lost in the semi.
Oh, that's right.
And at Eden Park. It rained again.
Yeah.
It rained. We were on our way to score 350 plus. That was the game.
Yeah.
Brendan McCullum came out. He got 100 runs in the first 10 overs, and then we were clawing our way back in a rain-reduced game.
Yeah.
And that was heartbreak again, once again.
South Africa. You know what's going to happen? Let's hope that me and you talking about this, we can bring some luck. The next World Cup, we're rooting for South Africa.
Definitely.
You know what? Maybe the next World Cup, because the expectations aren't there. Always South Africa go to the World Cup with a team that you expect this team to win the World Cup. So maybe this time you don't have the expectations. Maybe this time they might just win it.
Let's hope so, but let's hope so. We need to win something in South Africa from a cricketing perspective.
Absolutely.
At some point.
It's got to happen, bro. It's got to happen. 2016, you managed to play. You got a gig in the IPL. 3 matches for Kings 11 Punjab. I hope that improved your bank balance a little bit.
Well, just a little bit, not a hell of a lot. I got the first pick. I think first pick wasn't too great, but the experience was fantastic. On the back of a T20 series, on the back of an Indian one-day and T20 series in the October of the pre-seeding year in 2015, we beat India in India.
Yeah,
that was a pretty special moment. And on the back of that, I got selected in the IPL, and the assistant coach Sanjay Bangar was head coach of the IPL side, and he liked what I had to offer. I did really well in certain small instances in India, and yeah, brilliant experience. Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get too much game time, but I mean, the experience nonetheless. I got to play a few IPL games, and so that was quite special.
Quite special. Listen, big special moment, 2017. The boy from, you know, Johannesburg, born and bred, got to Cape Town, grew up in, you know, tough times. Had, you gave a lot of thanks to your parents at the start of this episode. There must have been such a proud moment for all the family when in 2017 you got to captain South Africa in a 3-match series against Sri Lanka.
Yes, that was a proud moment in my career. It's in my top 5. There was about 3 of the top 5 that I've mentioned so far.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. I'm getting the good moments in.
Yeah, no, look, I think representing my country was a great achievement, but to captain my country was truly special. And I got to captain at my home ground at SuperSport Park. So the start of the series was at SuperSport Park, but there was a lot of rain around, thunderstorms that happened in upcountry in the Highveld over the summer period, and I was entrusted to be captain for a particular series. A lot of the current players at the time were resting: Faf, JP, Kagiso Rabada, Quinton de Kock, and I was a senior player, if you could call it that. Basically, from age, they picked a lot of people, or a lot of our squad at the time was from the domestic tournament that, you know, guys did really well. So I was entrusted to captain the team, and at SuperSport Park on a Friday night, if I'm not mistaken, because it was a night game, and we won. So it was like I think we batted first, got 100, and they chased, and they were about 5 or 6 runs short. It was quite a hectic and pressure game, but a really proud moment.
No, that must. And how did you captain? How were you? Do you think you done a good job?
I had ambitions to captain. Like, I was so into leading teams after reaching particular heights as a player for my franchise, playing for the national side now, going on like 5 years, and maybe not thinking about captaining my country, but I always thought about leading a group of men. So maybe franchise first, build up some experience, and then maybe doing it at an international level. I always had the skill to do it. It's not for everybody. It's a tough gig because you have to deal, especially at that level, you have to deal with a lot of press. You know, you always have to handle yourself in a particular way. And sometimes I like to be a little bit more abrasive and a little bit more forthcoming. And you know, I don't like to like mince my words. Like, I want to tell you exactly how I feel, and I feel that like maybe that's one lesson I could like kind of teach myself is to always, you know, stick through to that. We lost the series 2-1. I felt that maybe we needed 1 or 2 more senior players to play. In our team, we had a very young and inexperienced team at the time with regards to international cricket. But then in saying that, it's their biggest moments as well. You know, a lot of guys made their debut. So for them, it was a special moments. And that is also another side to the story, is that for those guys, it might be their best moments, where I'm thinking, look, we needed to win the series from a South African point of view. So there's so many different sides to a captaincy coin and how you have to be and stuff like that. And I like to, especially in the last couple of years, or especially in this last year, to lead without having the captaincy armband on me, if that makes sense. So I have a lot of experience, a lot of matches under the belt in different scenarios. So I think at the time it was a really proud moment, and I'd like to have continued that. But now towards the back end of my career, I think I've much more to offer without having the captain's armband on me.
You might have abused the press a couple of times over the years.
I think I did. I think one of the things I've always said is that the finisher role, which obviously that's a term coined over the last 10 years, the finisher role is such a tough role, batting 5, 6, 7, closing off games for either your franchise or your country, especially on an international level. There are so many people willing to, firstly, criticize you for not doing well. And then in turn, the same people praise you for getting across the line. So it's such a tough job. And I think if people understood exactly what went into actually, doing that job, they might have a slight understanding, but it's such a tough job, man. You have to have tough skin. I think that's where my mentality comes from. You have to have a tough skin.
Yeah.
Batting 5 and 6 and trying to finish off games. That's a tough gig.
I can imagine. It must be very, South Africa, the expectation is so high that you've got pressure on you every single time you put the shirt on and you walk out. Yeah. But when you're in a role that you don't have more than like a couple overs to get going, you pretty much got to get going straight away. It's a very tough gig. 2017, you went to the Champions Trophy.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you carried a lot of drinks, I think, on that trip.
I've never played one Champions Trophy game. I've been to 2 Champions Trophy. So 2012 T20 World Cup, 2013 Champions Trophy, 2014 T20 World Cup in Bangladesh, 2015 Big 50 Over World Cup, 2016 T20 World Cup in India, and then 2017 Champions Trophy in England. I never played one Champions Trophy game.
Why? What was the point in picking you if you weren't going to play? And all?
I don't know.
That's a lot.
The thing is, the tournament runs by so quickly.
Yeah.
The first tournament we played against in 2013, Gary Kirsten said to me the morning after the semi-final loss to England at the Oval in 2013, I think we were 60 for 6 batting first. Lost the toss, got put into bat, 60 for 6. I think AB de Villiers got run out and Dave Miller got run out. And he said to me after chatting, he said he probably should have played an extra batter. And a batter that could bowl instead of a bowler that could maybe bat, because Rory Kleinveld played in my place and I think he got a 40 or something, if I'm not mistaken. We got to a respectable, well, I say respectable, but I think we got to like 160, but we lost by like 7 or 8 wickets. The last one in 2017, we never even got past. We played 3 games. We never got to the semi-finals. We lost. We beat Sri Lanka, lost to Pakistan, lost to India. I mean, you lose to Bangladesh.
So the 2017 one, the
shocker.
You just didn't have it. It wasn't a good tournament. But yeah,
absolute shocker.
Look back on the Champions Trophy when your career ends too fondly. It's not a tournament that you've ever got the chance to excel in.
No, look, I've been to them. I've been a part of those particular sides. I got to represent my country still. So, I mean, I got to go to the events and experience what it was to be part of those events. And, as much as I didn't maybe achieve the heights I achieved in international cricket, I got to see wonderful places and meet awesome people and play at stadiums, whether it be warm-ups or international games all around the world.
Yeah.
So it's afforded me opportunities to go see personally, physically see places, travel to places, eat at different restaurants, meet new people, train at different facilities.
Yeah,
so that's
sometimes there's a lot of guys that are working hard. You've probably got mates that are working their asses off.
Yeah.
Going to South Africa, they hardly get a holiday, and you really are blessed. Whether you're not playing or not, like you say, you're getting to see the world.
Exactly. So that is the idea with regards to the, that particular aspect. I mean, when I look back at the time, I'm maybe a bit aggrieved I didn't get selected for the game, or I didn't go to the tournament, didn't play a game. But like in the back end, hindsight's wonderful though, obviously. At the time, maybe a bit disappointed. But looking back, that particular journey was amazing. I've done all what I needed to do. 6 years in a row to go to 6 ICC events.
Yeah, you can't complain, can you? You would have taken that at the start of your career to play.
The main thing is, in all of the World Cups, the 3 T20 World Cups and the 50 Over World Cup, I played in. So I was physically a part of those particular tournaments. The World Cups in Sri Lanka, in India, in Bangladesh, and in the big 50 over World Cup, I played 4 out of the 8 games. So that was brilliant. And that's one thing I always hold on to, is that I was physically a part of it. And
you should be very proud, my friend. You've obviously, you played a couple of your last games. Your last ODI, if I'm right, is against India at Centurion in 2018.
Yes.
And your last T20 was against India at Newlands 2000.
No, last T20 was 2018 November, if I'm not mistaken. So it was against Australia on the Gold Coast.
Okay. So how was that? Did you? What is your feelings? Do you feel that you should still be playing? This is obviously now going to be touching on it. You mentioned at the start of this that you're going to be coming over to lovely sunny Newcastle, or you're meant to be all this fucking. Is this a sign?
Sorry, say again.
Is this the sign of another great servant to South African cricket deciding to move on because doesn't maybe agree with the system?
I'm very competitive by nature, and in 2017 and 2018 season, so I had my best year ever with regards to my statistics. And then leading into the 2019 season, I never played for South Africa. I had the best season, got selected against India, but only played the 150 over game, played the 3 T20s. Played the 3 T20s against India. The next year, leading into the 2019 50 over World Cup, I was thinking about the World Cup. I put pressure on myself. Didn't have a great season. Didn't go to the World Cup. And I was terribly disappointed, and it was heartbreaking, because at the time, even in my age, so from a physical point of view, I was competing with the best. From a skill point of view, I was more equipped to go in 2019 than I was going in any of the previous World Cup years, or Champions Trophy years, based on a experience point of view. And oh man, it was heartbreaking. But on the other side of it, like, I had no issues. Like, I don't have an issue with like the management, like, or whatever. I don't have like, there's no like sinister story. It's just I fell out of favor. Me chasing a boyhood dream of mine, I fell out of favor because I just wanted it too badly. And me coming to the UK is a bit of or getting an opportunity to come to the UK. I know I'm not there now, I'm in Pretoria, but was just a different challenge for me, coming towards the back end of my career, and kind of just realizing that there needs to be some sort of change within cricket in South Africa, opportunities for younger guys to forge their careers. Just a realization that it's kind of time to move on. I can't keep hanging on to that particular dream. There needs to be a way that I need to let go of it. And a way of let go of it is coming to the UK, starting afresh, new challenges. And that's what I was looking forward to this last couple of months.
Well, listen, none of us could foresee what was going to come.
Yeah.
Like you said, when we first started talking, the main thing is...
What's it like in Scotland there?
Scotland, we haven't had it quite as bad as England. I mean, touch wood. There's been a lot of deaths. There has been a lot of deaths. And
where are you based? Like,
I'm Glasgow.
Like what?
I'm in Glasgow. So it's been we've been in lockdown. Only in the last maybe 2 or 3 days as things eased a little bit. So we're allowed to meet with one other person from another household outside. But for the last 2.5 months, it's pretty much, I've just been at home with I've got a 5.5-month-old daughter. So lockdown, pretty much, she was born, and then a couple of months later, lockdown hit in. So me and my wife have been kept busy with our daughter anyway. And, in some ways it's been a really blessed time, because I've probably spent time with my daughter and my family that I wouldn't have. I would have been busy in other areas of my life and doing things. So no, it's but you know, obviously heart goes out to the people who have lost their loved ones, and you know, it's a really sad time. But I think the main thing is that we come through this, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. And have you had communication with Durham? Is there talks of that, you know, things were still perceived as normal for next year, or is there even talks of you maybe getting over for the back end of the season if something happens?
Yeah, look, so the 1st of August is when the counties have kind of postponed the season to. That's in 2 months.
Yep.
And there are repatriation flights coming from South Africa to the UK, and I can't get onto one of those flights because I have to come for work. Like, it's a valid reason.
Yeah.
So that is an idea that I need to kind of keep an eye on the repatriation flights, and keeping an eye on, because I see England has kind of said that they're going to play 3 test matches against West Indies. So they're trying to recuperate some broadcast rights to kind of fund the game in the UK. Yeah. From a county perspective, I know a lot of the county games are, you know, it's a ticket sale based, it's merchandise, it's, you know, people go to the stadiums, they buy the beers, they get the food in, and that's quite well supported, you know, especially over the last, a lot of guys I've actually spoken to saying that, you know, county T20 games, you know, like it's
it's big over here.
It's jam-packed on a Friday night. So, you know, the counties rely on those sales of people, or just the vibe, and they set up events and they roll out all these activations at the stadiums, you know, for kids, and it's quite a big story. So for them not to be able to host games where spectators are allowed is going to eat into their revenues, and I don't know whether they can, fund their game just based on broadcast rights, specifically the domestic game. But that's the decision that they would all have to make, and I'm not too certain how that all stands. I don't know the ins and outs of county cricket. You know, I'm looking forward to coming over. I was really looking forward to playing at Lords. I've never played at Lords. I was 12th man at Lords once. So, you know, if the season was normal, we would have played Middlesex at Lords in September, like the second last championship game.
Yeah.
And then the last championship game would have been at Trent Bridge against Nottinghamshire. So I've played at Trent Bridge before, which is awesome. So that's an iconic stadium. But Lords, I've never played at Lords. It's one of the most iconic stadiums. So I was looking to different experiences. We in the northern group, so to play a T20 game at Headingley. I was 12th man at Headingley once, so I never played there. To play at Old Trafford against Lancashire on a Sunday afternoon. I mean, that would have been an awesome experience for me personally. And I think those are the things that I'm looking forward towards the back end of my career. In part, or kind of usher in the new generation with all the knowledge I've acquired, and then new experiences, playing at little county grounds, like art grounds, and then playing at the biggest stadiums in the UK, i.e. Old Trafford, Headingley, Trent Bridge, Lords. So those are the things I'm looking for currently, you know, as to kind of motivate me going into the last bit of my career. I mean, it's been 16 years now, since 2004. Going into my 17th year, and I mean, I'm still fresh physically, mentally, I'm more fresh than anything. I haven't played a lot of cricket in the last year. I fractured my finger. And I was out for about 7 weeks in the middle of our summer, so it was a bit disappointing. So I was really looking forward to getting over to the UK, but everything has a timing. The big man knows best.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's I wish you nothing but the best. Inshallah, you get the opportunity to come still over here, whether it be the back end of this season or whether it be next season now. What I'll say to you is, I live in sunny Glasgow in Scotland. So if you and your other half, if she's coming over with you and you want to you want to get a visit to Scotland, then please get in touch. And by all means, come and visit, and I'll be happy to show you some of the sites. But look, from me to you, thank you very much for your time. I've really appreciated it. It's been really enjoyable to talk through your career to date, and hopefully there's a couple of more chapters to tell in the near future.
Shukran, brother. I really appreciate it.
Take care, man. Take care.